Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Indeed, the beginning of a new presidency is always a very special moment. Slovenia is taking the helm of Europe's leadership at a turning point for our Union. Our vaccination campaign is progressing fast. The European Union is cautiously reopening. We're shifting now from crisis management to long-term recovery efforts. And NextGenerationEU is kind of the engine of this recovery. It will be up to us together to steer this recovery and make sure it works smooth and fast on the ground. And I count on the Presidency's support to approve as many national recovery and resilience plans as possible before the summer break, because this is crucial so that the money starts flowing now as soon as possible. As you have said, Prime Minister, our recovery will be sustainable. It will be digital. With NextGenerationEU, we have 800 billion euros in today's prices worth of investment. And this will make the European Green Deal a reality. It will enable our societies to embrace the digital revolution. And now we have to match this exceptional level of investment we have through NextGenerationEU with a very much increased ambition really to implement and to deliver on the ground. The European Union's climate targets are now enshrined since a few days in our climate law, signed by the European Parliament and by the Council. And now it is a question of how we're going to reach these goals and how we're going to make the most out of NextGenerationEU green investments. You know the numbers: climate neutrality in 2050, at least minus 55% of gashouse green emissions till 2030. How are we going to reach that? The Commission will present its so-called Fit for 55 package that shows how we're going to reach our goals 2 weeks from now. It will be one of the most ambitious EU policy overhauls ever. It's a dozen proposals, from carbon pricing through renewable energies, we spoke about it, from protection of nature to innovation and investments, all interlinked. It is a very coherent package of measures to reduce emissions on the one hand, but also to drive clean growth and to create jobs, sustainable, future-proof jobs on the other hand. So, Prime Minister, your support of this package will be instrumental. And I look to the Slovenian Presidency to steer and structure the work of the Council on Fit for 55 and to keep it balanced and coherent for our citizens, for our economy, and of course also for our planet. We count equally on the Slovenian Presidency to help Europe achieve its digital transformation. And I welcome your intention to start trilogues before the end of the year on our proposals for a safer, more open European digital space, namely, you know them, the Digital Services Act, the Digital Markets Act, and on data governance. Like you, the Commission is fully committed to support the Western Balkans' European path. We are also committed to making progress in the EU's enlargement process by formally opening the accession negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia. And I welcome the EU Western Balkans Summit you have announced and you will organize during your presidency. We will work very closely together for the long-term recovery and stability in that region. This was also a topic we have been discussing together. As a matter of fact, this week we had, you mentioned it, an important breakthrough on migration with the agreement reached on the new European Union Agency for Asylum. It is a key initiative under the new Pact on Asylum and Migration, and this is good. And we should continue moving forward on the other proposals of the Pact. So the screening proposal and Eurodac could be adopted quickly now, and I hope already under your presidency. And hopefully we can advance towards Council negotiations mandates on the other key measures of the Pact by the end of the year. Finally, a presidency has an important role to play on current rule of law files, for example, by managing the discussion in the Council based on the rule of law report that will come by mid or end July this year. Because at such a crucial moment as we collectively prepare and finance our recovery, trust is our most valuable asset. Trust in solid institutions, trust in independent and efficient judicial system, trust in free and independent and properly funded media, trust that freedom of expression, diversity and equality are always respected, and that the rule of law and European values are always upheld. This is the very essence of our European Union. This is how we earn the respect of the global community, and this is the key to recovering and living together as a union. And to be very clear, political dialogue requires respect for all democratic political parties. The Slovenian presidency will be decisive. The tasks will be challenging. It is no less than laying the ground for our future prosperity by setting NextGenerationEU in motion and really implementing it now on the ground. And in this endeavour, you can count on my constant support and the college's cooperation. Thank you very much. So, first of all, indeed, the right of parents to educate their children was not at all disputed. It was completely undisputed and common ground. The question was how the amendments of existing laws, whether the amendments of existing laws discriminate against minorities. And here we are very clear that the protection of minorities is one of the founding principles of the European Union enshrined in Article 2 in the Lisbon Treaty. And this is what is disputed in the Hungarian law. And therefore, the Commission, as guardian of the treaty, is going into a letter of formal notice just asking about the protection or the discrimination against minorities. Now, your question on the ad that Viktor Orban has placed. I've seen the ad that he has placed in some newspapers. Certainly, there are many topics where I would immediately go into an intense discussion with him because I would not share his views, but that is the essence of democracy, that you have free media where you can place ads and where you can issue your opinion, you can vocalize your opinion, and in a democracy and in free media and free press, you're able to have this dialogue of different positions that you're discussing about. So this is the essence of our democracy, and therefore I'm glad that we have these free media scene in which we can heavily debate or intensively debate the different opinions about the way forward. There were 3 to 4 topics we have been discussing. Indeed, the first one was on the European Public Prosecutor's Office. It is a crucial component to protect EU taxpayers' money. It's an important institution. It is very good that Slovenia has signed up to it, and now Slovenia must deliver and cooperate with the EPPO because I think it's now time that Slovenia will appoint a delegated prosecutor, and I count on the Prime Minister to submit names of candidates to the EPPO with utmost urgency. The second topic we've been discussing, we were just discussing it also in the other question, is the topic of, indeed, freedom of the media. That too a central element of any democratic society. We have been discussing that we need media and free media, that is critical media, as an oversight of governmental activities or, for example, the European Commission's activities. This is the essence of democracy. So our concerns are well known. You mentioned it, Prime Minister. We think that Slovenia must ensure the independence and the appropriate funding of the public service provided by the agency. So we expect that swift solutions are found to unblock the funding, and we will follow up the developments. There were some movements, I think, and I hope that over a short period of time there will be a good solution so that media pluralism is ensured. Then, indeed, we have been discussing the question of the rule of law report. The rule of law report is, or let me put it the other way around. Democracy and the rule of law in a democracy is never a state of play that you reach at a certain point in time and then everything stays similar and you don't have to move anymore. It is a constant process. It is a constant effort to reach a status of rule of law that is appropriate for a democracy. And because we know that, we have the rule of law report for all 27 member states. The Commission, as the guardian of the treaty, has to go through all the member states with all the different topics and discuss the improvement of the rule of law in the different member states. That's how we compose the rule of law report. It enables an intensive dialogue that is led by the Commission, also, of course, with Slovenia on the issues we have in the rule of law report. And last but not least, we have discussed, indeed, the fact that in the judiciary, of course, judges are people with a biography. Judges are people that have an own life. Of course, judges can be members of parties. So this is a fact in every democracy, and that we expect the respect towards the different political parties who, for example, or where, for example, judges are members. On the EPPO, I was very clear, and I have answered that question in the question before already. Slovenia has signed up. That is good. So it is important. Pacta sunt servanda. If you have signed up, and this is good, you have to nominate a candidate. We have not spoken about specific dates, but perhaps the Prime Minister will answer to that. What your second part of the question is concerned, we do have a recommendation on travel now. We do have a recommendation that has been issued by the Commission and agreed by Council. So all 27 member states have agreed on a procedure how to deal with travel, COVID, and the EU certificate. Within this recommendation is an emergency brake, and this emergency brake allows to react swiftly in case that there is a variant of concern. Therefore, there is a purpose why it has been put in place. It requires information between the member states and, of course, coordination between the member states. And therefore, as all member states have agreed on that, I really urge member states to follow their recommendation and to have and to keep the commonly agreed measures in place. So I'm sure that the case you mentioned, Germany and Portugal, will follow their own recommendation. I have not completely got the part you said there in Slovene because there was no translation, but deducting from what you answered, what the reforms are concerned, this morning I was in the medical center, and indeed there is a healthcare reform, as far as I understand it, that is mainly targeted towards digitizing the medical field and the medical institutions in Slovenia. So here a reform, in the essence, a reform is improving a system, and it was very much welcomed by the staff of the medical center that digitization of the healthcare sector in Slovenia is one of the core priorities of the Recovery and Resilience Plan, equipped with 2.5 billion euros. On the other part of the question, I wanted to reflect briefly on the topic of the EPPO that has been discussed. This is, of course, not the only instrument to supervise and control European funds and budgets. So woven into every national recovery and resilience plan is a very clear system of targets, of milestones, of controls, of audits, because it's an enormous investment, and each tranche has to be controlled before disbursement really can take place. So there's an inner system of control and audits that is there, and then is, of course, Olaf as an institution also there, and the conditionality mechanism will be in place. So I just wanted to add there is a concrete system of supervision of where the money flows and how the money flows. And last but not least, the Istanbul Convention. I have been very vocal, and I will always be very vocal on that. The Istanbul Convention is protecting children and women from violence. And I urge all member states who have not signed up to the Istanbul Convention to do it. And I think it is an important convention. It is needed more than ever. In these times, we all know that COVID has been devastating for women and children who lived or had to suffer from domestic violence. But it's a much broader subject than the terrible subject of domestic violence. So the Istanbul Convention has my full support, and I urge member states to sign up to them.
Hvala lepa, s tem smo zaključili današnjo novinarsko konferenco. Hvala gospa predsednica, gospod predsednik vlade, hvala vsem vam in se vidimo ob naslednji priložnosti.